that it matters to me if there's like, you know, some ink that might have dripped where it shouldn't, or ink dye. You dye wool. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Eventual Knits podcast. My name is Leavia and I use she, her pronouns. Today is Sunday, September 12th, 2020. As usual, I'm not prepared for this. I am coming to you from my home in the Twin Cities, and my Instagram handle is miss_LJV. I immediately have a cat who is very interested in my lap. I am sitting on the floor again today. I know last time I think I sat on the floor. I like sitting on the floor. First things first, here you might notice that my yarn looks a bit different. So I didn't get rid of any yarn, I just restructured a little bit. I purchased a second set of cubes, 3x3 cubes, 13 inches each, and I reorganized all of my yarn. So it is so much nicer, and the cubes fit perfectly exactly along my wall, which is amazing. And I sorted my yarn with fingering weight in like the first top row and then the next few. Right behind me right here is a lace weight. Then I have DK on the next few cubes on the bottom. Then I have the it's like these cubes and then down is DK, and then on the bottom I have my bulky worsted and cotton. So I love it. It looks so good. If they can breathe and I can breathe, and it just makes me so happy. I tried to divide out my yarn first on color or shades or like the way they felt, and then sort of on brightness or otherwise. So like you can see those ones are bright and happy, and turns out I have a lot more blue-green than I would have thought, and a lot less purple in fingering. I have plenty of purple in DK. I hope everyone has been doing well. I know that I have been gone for quite some time, much more than I had anticipated. I think around the last time that I was going to start recording, there was more incidents in both the knitting community and in the United States, and it didn't feel appropriate, and I wasn't up to it. I was busy being involved with other things. Yeah, a lot happens. I did get a new phone, and so I'm kind of like getting used to, I can't see exactly where the camera is. I'm guessing where it is right now, the lens. I had an iPhone XR, now I have an iPhone 11, and it's just some getting used to. Also, with my videos, I am working on captioning them as soon as they are finished. The thing is that if I rely on YouTube to caption first and then I go through and edit, I think that it is slightly faster, because if I transcribe it out, which I've done, I've tried it on a video before, I transcribe the entire thing out and then I let YouTube align it. Sometimes the alignment is slightly off, or maybe just not the way that I had envisioned, and so it requires me to not only transcribe the whole thing line by line, but then go back and watch it again line by line. Whereas if I wait for YouTube to transcribe my video first and then go back and edit, then it kind of only requires me to go through one time for sure. And in order to do that, then I need to let the video upload and process in YouTube first and then add the captions later. But I think that that is the best process, and I think that will work the best for me moving forward. So when I upload videos, they won't have captions right away, but I will enable the closed captioning immediately and then edit as soon as it's available versus waiting and doing it later. So my process has been like, I upload a video and I do the captioning, and then I go back to a previous video and update the captioning, which everyone should do already from the outset. Captions are super helpful, or subtitles are super helpful, and I should have been doing it from the start, and I'm going to do it moving forward, and I'm going to keep going back and editing. It just takes a little while. As a person who works with digital accessibility technology, I should have already been doing this, and so I am happy to do so. I actually think it's really fun doing captioning and subtitles. I like going through and editing and adding and making it look nice and crisp and aligning with what I say, especially because captioning is hilarious and it often messes up my own voice, and also, not my voice, but like what I'm saying. Also, you get to see what words and phrases you say the most and what kind of verbal pauses you get. So if I seem a little stilted, it's because I'm like trying to be really conscious and thinking of the way that I talk and the way that I present myself. So let's get into it. What have I been working on? You might notice that I am wearing a finished object. So this is the Columbary, I guess that's how I pronounce it. I haven't actually looked up if it's just pronounced Columbary like that, like column and then berry, or if it's like Columbary, or I don't know. Maybe there's another way to pronounce it. The point is this is a sweater that is designed to sort of mimic peacock feathers, and it was a test knit that I did for Tellybean Knits, Stephanie Lotven. I was late on the test knit. For some reason I had told myself that I had until September 9th to get it done, but it was actually due September 1st. But then everybody was not done by September 1st, so she extended to September 6th, and I think I finished it on the 7th. Part of it was like, again, that I was like really busy and active and doing other things in the community, but part of it was because I thought I had a different deadline than I did. Let me show you what it looks like. So first things first, here, my sweater boobs here. So you can see it does look like little peacock feathers. I love, love, love the way this looks. It is bright and fun, and in the light, these colors look amazing together. It's a little bunchy because I've been wearing it a lot, and so it's kind of stretched and then bunched because it is a bit oversized for me. But it's really, really cute. So the sweater, it's not released. It's no longer a test knit. She like released it right after she finished the test, which is great because then people can work on it. The yoke itself, I think if you choose high contrast colors or yarn that isn't annoying, it will probably go relatively fast. There are a few sections where you need to catch floats, like probably in these longer sections. Like I don't personally catch floats unless the full number across is more than maybe 7 or 8 stitches. Like once we start getting into like 9 stitches, 10 stitches, 11, then I'll catch a float, but typically I won't. Otherwise I'll just keep really long floats. And this yarn that I used for the contrast color, in a lot of places is actually quite low contrast. Like these are actually little crosses and you can't really tell, which in person is fine. See, you can see the little crosses. So that meant that I had to really focus on the knitting. I had to like pay attention because the yarns were similar colors a lot of the time. I had to like keep track more intensely. And they're both Berroco yarns, I believe, that I used for the sweater. So the contrast color was Berroco Millefiori, which is actually a lighter yarn. It's Millefiori light. And so it's a thick and thin yarn. It's like a metallic, or it like has a shimmer on it, and it is really pretty and really nice, but it does kind of err on the thin side. Like there actually is a lot less at least in the sections and all of the yarn that I used, which was like 300 some yards, I needed to keep track because if it got really, really thin, then I was worried about the structural integrity of the yoke. And so what I would do is if I got to a really thin part, I would just pull until it got thicker again and then start knitting from there. So I had to weave in quite a few additional ends that you wouldn't if you picked a more stable yarn. And then the main color, I used Berroco Vintage DK, and I really, really like it. Like, it's, I don't know if you can see, I feel like I showed this yarn before, but this is actually a blue-green. It like leans blue, but it has green undertones and green color. And because it is a wool acrylic, it is really soft and not itchy. Like, I'm wearing this against my bare skin and it's fine. And because both of these are partially acrylic and wool, and then Millefiori, it also has nylon, you can throw it in the washer and dryer. So, well, I don't know about the, maybe the washer if you wanted to. I soaked it and then I laid it out to dry, and then when it wasn't drying fast enough because I was feeling pressured about the deadline, then I put it in the dryer for 25 or 30 minutes all by itself with some wool dryer balls, and it was perfectly fine. So that was really exciting. It's nice to be able to wash a sweater in a dryer. And yeah, I will put in some pictures of me in the sweater because they will do a good job. We, again, because I was on a time crunch, we just took the pictures on a cloudy, kind of unpleasant day, but I wanted to get some outdoor pictures with natural light, and I don't think that it really showed how like shiny and like cool this sweater is, but it at least sort of showcases the colors in general and how good they are. The front yoke is more amber and brown and green, but the back yoke is kind of like strips of color, and it does have short rows, so the back is the back and the front is the front, but that's okay. I think it looks really good. I love it. I like I said, I have been wearing it a lot. It's a little warm today though, so we'll see if I can manage this whole episode without having to take it off. For the Columbary, I knit the 44-inch size, so I have a like 38.5, 39-inch bust, and she recommends a bunch of ease, so I do have a lot of space in this. I think that it fits really nicely though. It's very comfortable. The sleeves, I knit the exact length in the pattern. The pattern does, I think that it's designed to be a more tunic length sweater. I knit it 3 inches shorter than the pattern called for because I really liked that it fell sort of mid-hip, and so like it didn't fully like it went fully down my front up to my hips and then like fell just below my belt, and looks really nice and flattering on my shape. The needles that I used were size 5 for the larger needle and size 4 for the smaller needle, although I'm pretty sure for the sleeves I actually used a 3. It's like one of those things where like I do this all the time, where I just pick up a needle and I assume it's the right size and I don't even look at it. So this size range goes from a 32-inch chest all the way to a 72-inch. So I mean, in terms of, it recommends, I want to say it's like 5 to 10 inches of positive ease to be worn with 4 to 8 inches of positive ease. So it goes up to 72 inches, but it's designed for up to, what, 64 inches? Do I know how to do math? Yes. In terms of its largest size. So it's pretty size inclusive, which is great. And again, you can also use larger needles because it's using a DK, depending on how much space you want. And so yeah, this is the Columbary by Stephanie Lotven. You can go to her Instagram to find where you can purchase it. And I highly recommend you do purchase it and you do knit it. Because it's DK, it knits up way faster than a fingering sweater. And again, I think the entire thing will go faster if you use yarns that are not difficult. The next thing I would like to show you that I have finished, it's mostly finished. It's the knitting is done. I still need to block it. So I finished this when we were up north this weekend. I was working on it, finishing it on the drive, and I was finishing it while we were just kind of hanging out. And I've been working on this since like end of February, beginning of March, somewhere in there. And it is my Colorful Keepsake by Tina Say. Okay, it's really big, and this is not blocked. This is how big it is unblocked, which is so exciting. So it starts here. Hold on. No, that's right. Okay. It starts here. And it has some texture and some garter, texture, more some lace, more lace, more texture. Look at how long it is. And then my personal favorite section, and then the end. I cannot wait to block this part out. Look at this really cool lace section. So this uses 3 different skeins of contrasting colors. I mentioned before I picked 3 skeins that I normally wouldn't necessarily pair together, but 3 skeins that were sort of like singletons. Like I didn't buy them for anything specific, and I didn't like have a plan for them or like have an immediate like, oh, I would love to use this in something like this, you know. A lot of like my like speckly sort of skeins, I think, oh, I'm definitely going to use that in a shawl, and I could easily pair that with a bunch of other colors. Whereas all 3 of these skeins were unusual for some reason or other. So the first skein of yarn is a KnitCircus yarn, and it was like a Vogue monthly colorway, and like Vogue Knitting Live or something like that. And it's like a semi-solid. I normally buy gradients from KnitCircus. It's really bright and pretty, but it's so loud that I couldn't figure out what I would want to use it with. The second skein, the color B, was this skein of mint chocolate chip. I feel like it's showing up lighter in camera than it is in real life, but yeah, mint chocolate chip. So it's like it's a sparkly, you know, minty green with some splotches of like a gray black for the chocolate chips, and that was by Brazen Stitchery. And then the blue was a hand-dyed skein from Four Crows yarn that I got from Cat and Crow during Shop Hop in Madison, or well, not in Madison, but like the Wisconsin Shop Hop, whatever that was called. So I really wanted to try pairing them together. And when I first started this shawl, I actually tried to pair, instead of using the mint chocolate chip, I had tried to use an Anzala yarn that was a Lisa Frank like Bear yarn colorway. It was basically like it's a white gray tweed yarn that was for like the seal or whatever, Dottie. Dottie I think is actually the yarn style, but it didn't end up looking good. Like it was really muddy, and it sort of detracted from all the brightness of the yarns. And so I tried the Brazen Stitchery, and it ended up working out so much better, and I'm really excited. I seriously, I would never, like, this is super out of my wheelhouse for a shawl colorway or shawl colors, and I really, really like how it turned out. The end here, you might be like, well, why did you knit it backwards or inside out? Look at this. You have garter wrong side on the right side. And I will say, yep, I totally do. And it's because you were supposed to, at the end, knit 11 rows of garter in color A. And I ran out of color A on the 7th repeat. and I still had some of the other two colors left, and they were just little skeins left, and I really just kind of wanted to use all of it. So when I ran out of the magenta, I just picked it up, and I happened to be on the wrong side for the mint chocolate chip, and I just kept going until I ran out of that. And then finally for the ocean, this is ocean, by the way, this blue is called ocean, and I don't know why that is such a poofy color. Oh, it's because I had gone on all the way across, and then I'd started binding off, and about halfway through the bind off I realized I was going to run out of the blue, out of the ocean, and so I had to tink it all the way back. And I didn't tink it, I just ripped it out because tinking was going to take way too long. And so I kind of shredded a couple of the, or I split a couple of the yarns when I was picking the stitches back up. And I have, well, it's all kind of tangly now, but I have this much of the ocean left, and it was not enough to go all the way across and then bind off. So I do have a slightly little bit of the blue of the ocean left, but yeah, so all that's left on this is to block it. And yes, I did do some wrong side garter here, and that doesn't bother me because it's my shawl, and also out of this whole thing, this part is definitely probably not going to be seen anyway, and no one's going to notice it. I work from home, and no one's going to judge me because they're going to think of how beautiful this yarn is. And again, okay, this pattern, oh yeah, there we go, look at that. And then also, this is a really fun, interesting stitch pattern as well. So I cannot wait to see it blocked out, and I'll definitely wear it this week. So that is the colorful Keepsake shawl by Tina Say. You can go to her Instagram. It's tina.say, say.knits for her Instagram handle. And yeah, so that is, if you want a nice, cozy, colorful shawl that has some fun, interesting stitch patterns, you should totally knit that up. One more thing I want to point out on this. Again, nothing anyone would notice, but after I did so well. Okay. On the sets of the little flowers or the dog paws or whatever, down, maybe these aren't the dog paws. Maybe I just was kind of messing those up, but I feel like I was not. Or maybe this happened on both of them. I think it did. I feel like on both of these I messed up at the top. So I think you're supposed to have an extra row before you start the next one. So you see how the holes, the lace ends, and then right away it's the colors. Maybe this is what it's actually supposed to look like, but on this one I forgot to add an extra row in between, and so so it's just stuck in it right until the next one starts. Like, it doesn't matter, but I just wanted to point out that I'm not perfect. I do mess things up. Okay, now I'm done talking about that. Okay, the last finished objects I have are something new that I've been trying. So I have been thinking, like, okay, what can I crochet? I really want to crochet some things. And I was like, I really want to start crocheting those scrubbies. So last year I knit a bunch of washcloths for Christmas for family members, and that was fine because I could knit them during meetings. But now that I'm working from home, I can kind of knit almost anything that doesn't require a lot of concentration. Like, I'm not having to bring projects around. Whereas when I was in person, I would have to knit, or I'd have to go a lot of different places, and so my knitting had to sort of be more travel friendly. And of course, like, bringing this giant shawl into a meeting would maybe turn some heads, and so I would just bring washcloths, which was great because then I was able to get my holiday knitting done while at work. I also bought a bunch of cotton yarn in preparation for doing the same thing this year, but I have not been able to motivate myself to knit a single washcloth this year. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do instead? Like, how can I keep it interesting? How can I keep making things for my family that I know they will love, but maybe aren't the exact same things every year? So one of the ideas I thought I would try out are dish scrubbies. and Natalie of Knitty Natty and a couple others talk about variations on dish scrubbies that they use made out of tulle, out of some tulle yarn. And, well, not yarn, but just tulle. And so I ordered a bunch and I started trying them out. So here is my first ever scrubby in crochet. I would say it's pretty good for my first attempt. I can't remember, I think it was a J hook that was recommended, and so I made this in a J hook, and I couldn't figure out how to get this hole I pulled it as tight as I possibly could, and it looks kind of fat because of the way that I had like caught the ends, but otherwise I think I did pretty good. I don't know. It's looking good. It's a little, so she said that she knits hers as big as her palm, and this is a bit bigger than my palm. So I tried, I didn't have an I hook, I just had a J hook. So I tried wait, I'm backwards. Yeah, so I did a J hook, I think, and then an H hook. I have random crochet hooks because I haven't really done a lot of crochet, so I just have a random smattering of crochet hooks. I think this was done in an H hook. And look at this one. This is just a little smaller. I feel like I did better the second time in terms of the center hole. It's still not exactly a circle, but it's pretty close. And then the rest of the, like by the time I had started this one, I had already gotten the pattern memorized, which is great. And so it's a little, this one is like the size-ish of my palm, maybe a little smaller-ish. And so what I really want is to actually get an I hook and get the size in between. I honestly kind of feel like that would be the Goldilocks size for the way that I crochet. I don't know if I'm a tight crocheter or a loose crocheter, to be honest. And I feel like I painstakingly crochet compared to knitting. These actually went pretty quickly because I was going in a circle, and I'm really proud that they are circles and that I can read crochet, simple crochet, and they really have been scratching a crochet itch that I've had. So that's really nice. I want to keep making more. I want to get better at it. And what's really cool about these is it's just pure tulle or pure like that meshy stuff. And Knitty Natty says that this is what she uses. Like I bought the exact tulle that she said that she uses, and she said that she never buys any sort of dish scrubbies, any sort of dish cloths for scrubbing ever anymore, that she just makes these and that they last a really long time. And she like showed how she uses them to scrub, and like that they fit really nicely in her hand. And so that's why I feel like this one would work for me, because I kind of have a small hand and like I really like to get it like concentrated in my fingers. I feel like someone with a larger hand this might work better for, but this would be too big for me, I think. And she says that when they get dirty, she just puts them in the dishwasher, like just sticks them either in one of in the top rack in one of the little spools, or just shoves it in the like silverware or one of the side sections. And that's really cool that you can just wash them with your dishes and not have to worry about it, and they get clean and they don't smell, and which is really nice. I'm so sensitive to mildew smell. I hate it. So I'm gonna try these out, see how they work, and probably keep making more. And if you have your own favorite scrubbies, I've seen others that have different like additional layers, so they're more like poofy and 3D. I feel like these would work for me because I scrub really hard on my pots and pans and stuff, and so like I like it to be as like condensed as possible. I don't want it to be squishy or anything. Like I want it to just grind in there, you know. But yeah, so this, I'll try to find the pattern. I honestly think I just like YouTubed. Actually, I looked at a video and then I ordered the tulle, and then when I came back I couldn't find the video, and then I found that Knitty Natty actually had a video on making these. So I think I followed her video on making these. And then she does link or recommend like a magic circle tutorial, and that was okay, I think. I did watch another one later that might be more helpful in non-tulle. Like tulle is really rough, of course. Non-tulle yarn, I'm going to try the other tutorial, and that one is by TL Yarncrafts. Alright, that is it for all of my finished projects. I really have been mostly cruising. I was like, you know, working on the sweater, and then I was working on the socks that I finished for last time, and that's pretty much it. I didn't actually do as much knitting as I had hoped. In August, I was very busy with a lot of different things, and you know, of course, there was a lot of social stuff going on, and I was or have been involved in that. A lot of August was like going to events and being a part of stuff, and then a lot of September and October is like attending workshops and classes and stuff like that to like build additional skills. They're like active classes and whatnot, and I will try to collect them and link them below. It's like I have some of them in my email and some of them on my calendar and some of them on Instagram, and so I need to like sort of collect and organize all of them. And if you are interested, since they're online, some of them are free and some of them cost money, but I really highly recommend you check them out too, whether you are a Twin Cities local or not. I think that they could be helpful. So that is all I have for finished objects, but I do have a new works in progress. So I am working on a pair of socks for Steve. I'm really excited about them. I think you will recall that I was very excited to knit with my KnitCircus Yarns Rainbow Road. So remember that I bought myself a sock set. Oh my gosh, please focus. Doesn't want to. Anyway, a sock set and a shawl quantity gradient, 100 grams. And so I bought a sock set, and I'm knitting Steve some socks. Now, KnitCircus's sock sets come in small, medium, and large, and the assumption is if you buy a small, you're thinking of a shorter ankle or for smaller feet. For a medium, I think it's like, you know, a few inches, maybe 4 or 5 or something like that, up the calf for a regular sized foot, and then for a large, you're thinking like more of a full calf length, I think, or for large feet. And I hate finishing a pair of socks and having leftover yarn if it's KnitCircus, because even if it's one of their more abstract gradients, I want to use every single bit of that yarn. Like, I don't want to waste any of it, and I prefer to knit my socks top down, and so that can pose kind of a problem. So what I did is I actually ordered, even though Steve has very large feet, he wears like a 13 wide in men's, US, and so his feet are quite large, and you'd think, okay, well yeah, you're gonna order large then because he has large feet. And I was like, but the risk of running out or having additional yarn left over after I got to his toes, it was like too painful to deal with. Like I couldn't stand the thought. So I ordered a medium. I knit a shortish ankle, and then the plan is if I run out of yarn by the time I get to the toe, then I'll just use a contrast color like a black as the toe, which I think will actually work really well. So I started the sock yesterday, and I'm already, and I have not knit, I swear I've not knit that much, like a few hours. I'm already on the foot. This is my foot. So that's why it's too big, and it looks like, oh, you're almost done, kind of. Steve's foot is this one. So really, I'm actually just past the gusset. Yeah. So look at this amazing gradient here. I did not use a contrast for the heel. I didn't even think about using a contrast until after I was like part way on the heel, but like we were also up north, and so I didn't have additional yarn to like try anything out with, and so I was like, it'll be fine. Steve really likes it. He said he likes that they, like, I don't know, it meets up and whatnot. I could always change it for the second one. He doesn't care if his socks match. But I'm using the Zigzagular socks. It's a free pattern, I believe. And I Really like this pattern. It requires minimal cabling. I have this much left. And so you see that it ends in like a purple pink. Having the toe be black, I think would work really nicely with this yarn. So I'm really excited. Obviously, these are knitting up really quickly. KnitCircus's yarn for sock sets is a little bit, I think a little bit thicker than the average sock yarn. And so I think it knits up quicker, and also you tend to not need as many stitches because it's thicker yarn. And so for this pattern, I believe it says for a foot circumference of 7, 8, and 9 inches. Those are the 3 sizes they give you. But the stitches, the stitch count, I think is like 56, 64, and 72, something like that. And when I knit Steve socks in regular yarn or like traditional fingering weight sock yarn, I do 68 stitches. And so 72 would have been definitely too many, 1 for like how I knit in general, and 2 because of KnitCircus's yarn being a little bit thicker. So I just did the size, the medium, the 64 stitches, and I'm just kind of being conscious of knitting a little bit looser, even though I already knit pretty loosely anyway. And so these are gonna be fine. They're gonna fit just fine for him. I'm not stressing at all about it being too tight, because you want socks to stretch anyway. But yeah, I think it's knitting up really well, and I cannot wait to get done. And I mean, this is called Rainbow Road, get it? It's Rainbow Road. And so the Zigzagular pattern, like the Rainbow Road, you know how it's kind of like chaotic and like wavy and stuff? Yeah, that was intentional, guys. That project is living in my Otterly Adorable Knits. I think this was a limited edition video game console bag. I really love it. It's so cool. I love Super Nintendo, love Game Boy, floppy disks, etc. So that's where that project is living, and I'm very excited about that. And that's like all I have really for my current works in progress. I have a lot of ideas and plans in the works, as always, and what sucks is like the second I have one idea, then something else pops up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to make that. And I do have one other work in progress, but it's downstairs and it's also a gift, so I guess I won't talk about it this time. I was hoping to have it done, but just didn't have enough time before we went up north. And that's okay. I'll show it next time. And then hopefully the gift will be off to its owner by that time. But I do have other things that I want to show you. The first thing is some of you guys are going to be like, wow, this is so cool. And some of you are going to be like, what the hell? Whoever needs something like this? Turns out it's me. I need this. I don't need it. I wanted it, and I could get it, so I did. So Birdie Parker decided to do a run of light covers, and of course I had to get one, and here it is. Yeah guys, I got a light switch cover. I don't even have anywhere to put it. I mean, I have light switches obviously, but the one that when I ordered it that I was thinking that I would use it for is there's a light switch over there for the living room, and that would make sense because that's where my yarn is. My yarn is in our like upstairs living room. But when I bought the second cubbies, the light switch is like partially covered now. Like you can only see like the top half of it. Like it fits just perfectly, like the height of the cubes fits just perfectly that we can flip the switch up and down, but a lot of it is covered up, and I really feel like that is not doing this justice. So my second plan is to maybe put it in our bedroom. I think that would work out just fine, and for now, yeah. So that's probably what I'm gonna do, but I have not put it anywhere yet. But that is a thing that I got, and I love. It's like substantial. It's heavy. It comes with screws. It's very nice. Let's see, what else? Ooh, I have some yarn that I bought for a baby blanket for, there are several babies that are coming in my life, not for me, but for other people. And so I bought this really nice Sweet Roll Sprinkles. It's a Premier Yarns, Sweet Roll Sprinkles. It is 245 yards, 5 ounces, 140 grams. And this is really cute. It's like a really nice neutral that could work for any baby. And I bought a yarn to go in between. So I believe I'm going to be making a baby blanket out of this using a TL Yarncrafts pattern. So let me see what pattern I was referring to. Yes, so I believe the pattern that I wanted to knit, or I wanted to make with this yarn, is the Daphne pattern by TL Yarncrafts. And if you know anything about TL Yarncrafts, she does crochet patterns. So I'm gonna put a picture of the Daphne, if I haven't already. And yeah, it looks really fun and pretty easy. And yeah, again, as I said, I've been really into I really want to do some crochet. I don't know, I'm just really having the crochet itch. I'm also having the itch to work down my works in progress, and I will get to that in a moment. But yeah, so I'm gonna take this yarn and I'm gonna make that Daphne Afghan, and it will be a great gift. Yay, baby blankets, woo! I also bought a bunch of skeins of yarn. Premier was having like a sale on yarns, and so maybe I thought I wanted to make a blanket, another blanket with them. I don't remember if I picked out a pattern and then forgot about it. I'm really bad, especially because I have been avoiding Ravelry. I have been like saving patterns to my Instagram, or saving them in YouTube, or saving them to Pinterest, and I did not write them down anywhere, so I can't remember where I save all these things. But Premier has these yarn bobbin things, and it's called Anti-Pilling Everyday Bobbin, 3 balls in 1, endless possibilities. And if you look at it, it's literally like a spool of yarn. Look, you can even press in, like it's an actual spool. Like, and they said what's really cool about this is that each of these is spooled on individually. So these yarns are not actually connected. You can see that they each have their own ends. So you can use them all together in a project. And I guess the example they give on each of these is like a sweater. I don't know if this is an adult sweater. Well, each is 181 yards, so 543 yards. So this is definitely like a kid sweater. But I believe I bought this thinking, and it might honestly be for a big Daphne. I don't remember what I picked it for. I have it saved somewhere. I'll figure it out. But I bought this one, this one, this one, and this one. I bought these ones, guys. Look at these fun yarns. They were on sale, although I don't think they're that expensive to begin with in terms of 543 yards of yarn, and the fact that it's like 3 different yarns. And these are worsted weight, so you know I have a lot of yarn for a blanket. And once I figure out what that blanket is, I will tell you. But in the meantime, it's really cool. I mean, some cool yarn. I'm really into this one. This one is like one of my favorites. Like the deep maroon red wine, like not quite wine exactly, but then like the fact that these two are combined in this one. I also really like the yellow. Yeah, they're all really good. But I also maybe was going to make a baby blanket with them and forgot that that's what I was going to do. So we'll decide what I want to do once I actually start using it. It's really soft. It's very nice. I don't know if I've bought Premier yarns before. that leads me right into the next thing I was going to talk about. So I may or may not have been obsessively sort of watching like all of TL Yarncrafts videos on YouTube. I don't know if I just didn't know that she did like a podcast or like additional YouTube videos other than like pattern support, because she's amazing, and she like she records videos for different techniques that she uses in her various patterns, and so they're very, very detailed and very helpful even for someone who does not really crochet like me. I had started a sweater a long time, like a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I think a year ago, like sometime in the summer, on a sweater, a crochet sweater, and she walks you through all of the steps in that sweater. So starting with the sort of crocheted ribbing and then moving on to the main pattern, and she walks you through each part of the pattern, and she does it for free. She doesn't, like, you can pay for her pattern, but if you go to her blog and like look at her ads and, you know, sift through the blog posts and stuff, the patterns are free. So she offers multiple ways to access her patterns, and she makes these amazing step-by-step videos on crocheting up her patterns. But I didn't know that she also had like yarn review videos, that she has an additional podcast, that she rates various crochet notions and items. And I gotta say, I love her style. I love all of her videos. I want to watch everything that TL Yarncrafts puts on YouTube. And so I have been doing that. In my spare time, I've just been pulling up all of her videos. And in particular, I really like her yarn reviews. She reviews yarns that I don't really see a lot, or I'm not interested in purchasing. Like, I don't go to big box yarn stores that much, and especially with the pandemic, I haven't set foot in like any stores really. Like the only stores I've been to are a couple grocery stores and like Menards. That's it, you know? And so I wouldn't even know what is currently in a big box store. But I think that one of the yarns that she recently, or I don't know if it's she recently reviewed, what I mean to say is I recently watched, is the Premier Sweet Rolls. She did a lot of Premier review yarns, and what's really nice is that she narrates the video. I don't know if it's after she, like, you know, pulls it out and talks about the fiber content and all. So I think that she narrates over all of the recorded content. It's like really professional and really nice to listen to. She has such a good voice. But she does a little crochet swatch while she is talking about the yarn. Like, it's really small, but she takes the time to do it, and it really shows how the yarn knits up. She talks about how the yarn feels on her fingers, how it felt to crochet on it. Like, did it feel good on her hook? Does she need a certain kind of hook, whether that's wood or metal or plastic? She talks about like what she envisions knitting or crocheting with that yarn, and what like there's a ribbon yarn that she crocheted with, and she crocheted herself a little swatch, and then she was like, ugh, and it looked really bad in the way that I crocheted it. But I thought, let me think about this. Let's try this with Tunisian crochet, and it looked completely different. And that, to me, that just like blew me away. It was very, very interesting. And so I've been hooked ever since. Let's just say that. You should try her videos. I don't know, I really like it. It definitely helped scratch that crochet itch, and inspired me a lot to do more crochet. And I think that I could crochet just fine. It's just that crochet doesn't come to me, of course, as easily at this point. I always have to review what I'm doing. I have to pay a lot more attention. I think, yeah, when I crochet, I hold the yarn in my left hand, which is not what I do for knitting. I hold the yarn in my right hand when I'm knitting. And so it does require more thought on tension and holding the yarn, and I have to kind of reset my tension a lot, which I really don't have to do with knitting. I am really good with my tension when I'm knitting, and if I have yarn at all in my left hand, it is so much more challenging. So I do have to be like more conscious when I'm crocheting, but I have so much energy to crochet. Okay, just like every episode, I have a couple of yarns that I do want to showcase and talk about today. The first yarn that I want to talk to you about is Fibernymph Dye Works. I did buy a few sort of random skeins. I bought this one. I bought a self-striping in this exact same colorway, just not twisted. There's no twist in it, but it's the same like color set. And then I bought another skein from Fibernymph that it's called like Wine About It or something like that, and it's a self-striping that has like sort of merlot, deep purpley reds, and kind of like the third or another color that is kind of like this but maybe a little bit darker. And I bought that for Steve so that the next time I knit him a pair of socks, I'm going to knit him that color set. It'll be really good for like Christmas. But I bought this twist, which is worsted. It is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, black and white, 218 yards, and it's called Cold Snap, and it's an oopsie. It has some errors in it. I'm not really sure what. I really don't mind buying oopsie yarns. I like getting them a little bit cheaper, and I'm not so picky personally that it matters to me if there's like, you know, some ink that might have dripped where it shouldn't, or ink dye. You dye wool. Or maybe like a color striping sequence that got out of order. That doesn't bother me at all. And I love Fibernymph yarns. So yeah, that was fun. I could easily see this being like a hat or a pair of gloves. And then the other yarns I got were two Lolabean yarns. Very excited to get these. The first one is a navy bean 100% superwash merino fingering in saltwater taffy. So it's just a white cream yarn with some really nice light speckles. I've been really into getting some sort of more neutral colors with speckles to go in between brighter or more solid colors in shawls. I also think that they make good accent colors in like maybe if I wanted to do like a half sleeve or something like that in sweaters. And then the other yarn I got was a canary bean superwash merino, 100% superwash merino in sport, and the colorway is A Mother's Love, and it's just a really nice purple. I feel like it's, maybe that's better. On what I'm seeing right now is that it's coming up a lot lighter, like a more reddy pink, but it's actually, I mean, it's definitely got red undertones, but it's very purple. I think this is good right here maybe. But yeah, it's really nice. It's a sport. I always think sport looks closer to fingering, so I can't tell if this is less sport than normal. It's probably right dead on what sport is, but I always think sport looks closer to fingering than to a DK. So I only got one though. So the idea I think here is that it would just be in maybe a fade or in a yarn that's or in a sweater that requires like less of one color, which I have done before in sport, which is fine, like using multiple different yarns that weren't the same necessarily. So yeah, just really excited to get those. I should probably showcase that it has a lot of speckles also. So yeah, I think that's it for everything that I wanted to show you. So yeah. So the next things that I want to actually knit, I'm definitely going to knit Steve a scarf. So at Zombie Knit Apocalypse last year, we bought a set of yarns for a scarf called the like Rayures scarf. I can't remember at the time, like I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Rayures, that's like textures. I don't know. So it says, my sweet spot is neutrals, but because I wanted to work with some saturated colors, I made stripes. For one scarf, pick your favorite shades, mix in a few contrasting colors, and watch as the stripes fly off your needles onto your new favorite cowl. So it's supposed to be 8 inches wide and 44 inches in circumference in a fingering weight. So we bought a kit from ZK in exactly the same colors as the sample, and it's a really nice fall gradient. I believe I showed them off at the time, but I can go get them. I set them out to wind them up, but I haven't had time yet. Okay, hold on. Okay, the booth was Show Me Yarn, and these are the stripes. So it's like a brown, a like bright burnt orange, a golden yellow, a lighter orange, this is not peach, this is just a lighter orange, and then like a deep red. And then the main or contrasting color is a yarn called Maple and Brown Sugar, which is like the perfect name for this shade. It's like a really, really good sort of light brown, probably get my hand out of the way, color. And so the way this scarf or cowl is knit is it's like you are alternating stripes, and then as you alternate the stripes you start doing the color changes. And so it's like it'll be like stripes of the brown yellow, and then stripes of the yellow orange, and then stripes of the orange red, and then but then the main color is thrown throughout, you know. And it's a really cool scarf. It's so autumny, the sample knit in the autumn colors. The original scarf has 7 colors, and this is only 6. And so I think the idea is you use more of just these colors instead of having one extra color. And it looked really, really good, and I'm really excited to knit it for Steve. And so that'll be the next thing that I knit for him, in addition to the socks that I'm working on as well. I also really want to knit this sweater called it's just called Bats, and it is by Natalie Knits, again K in front of Natalie Knits. It is both it's available on Ravelry and Etsy, I believe. The only problem with it is that well, one of them is not a problem, it's just a pretend problem, the other one is an actual problem, is that it only goes up to a 45 inch right now. She is currently testing for up to 60.5 inches. So this pattern, I don't know how long it's been out for. She seems like a new designer. This sweater that I am looking at only has 3 projects, and she's the only one who's posted pictures like of her completed sweater. So I think she's kind of a newish designer, and maybe published the pattern before she had finished getting testers for larger sizes or whatever. So they're being worked on, but in the meantime it's not very size inclusive while it's in testing. But I have a really good idea in my head for it. I don't think it would be done by Halloween. That would definitely be for next year, so I'm kind of going to put that off, but I wanted to get it on your radar because she does have additional sweaters that are really cool looking, like just cool. So all of her sort of like MO for sweaters is to like have a design that's kind of like right here and then goes on the sleeve, and then the bottom half is like a solid color, and so it's like just solid contrasting of whatever image for the yoke and then straight stuck in it on the way down. And I think that is a cool style for like a really comfy sweater. The sample sweater that she knit is knit in Shibui Knits Fern, a sport weight, and I probably would knit mine in a DK weight. So that is on my radar, the Bats sweater. I think actually it's starting to get towards gift knitting also. So, I mean, I'm going to constantly be working on socks as I always do, but it's going to start really shifting hard into gift knitting. I do want to get back to working on my carved pullover by Real Big Stitch, but I haven't had a chance to get to it. I'm hoping to get it done by Halloween. I can't imagine that we're going to be doing anything for Halloween, but I can at least wear it like to work on the day. But other than that, I do have plans to kind of go through all of my unfinished projects and sort of like figure out, does this whip give me joy or should I frog it? So yeah, that's the next thing that I want to do. In life, work is just being work, just doing work. Weather-wise, it's starting to feel like fall. It's supposed to warm up here this week into the 70s again. It's been in the 60s the last week, like to the point that we turned off our air and it got cold enough to be like in the low 60s in the house, and it's always a fun game we play every fall. But outside, it's been gorgeous. I love fall weather. I'm really sad that we don't get to do like any of our fall stuff really this year. I won't lie, I do enjoy myself a pumpkin drink, but what I really like is if you have Caribou coffees where you live, the pumpkin crafted press is really good. The first time I asked for it, whenever I get like a mocha, if I'm gonna get a mocha, which is not often, but when I do, I always ask for half of whatever's sweet. So if it's chocolate chips, if it is syrup, or if it's both, just half it. Oh my god, have it. Half it, cut it in half. It is so sweet. But the first time I asked for a crafted press with pumpkin and I said, half it, she was like, oh, we do like 6 or 7 pumps of syrup in a large mocha, for example, but we only do 2 in the crafted press. And so I was like, okay. It's still pretty sweet in my opinion, but it's not nearly as sweet as a mocha. And I love crafted presses, especially a hot crafted press from Caribou, and it is so good. My autumn fall weather heart is so satisfied. I can't wait until the weather is nice enough to I assume that apple picking and stuff like that will still be on this year, especially if you can keep distance. When I'm like imagining when we've gone apple picking around here before, there's never been so many people that you're ever really near anybody, because the way the apple orchards work are like pick your own and do your own thing. You're like never even in the same row as other people. So I think that stuff like that will probably still happen. And so we'll look into that. And so we'll be able to do some things. But like fall also is like, again, going to Madison and playing mini golf and eating fall food with my friends. And it's so sad to not be able to do those kinds of things. But speaking of travel, so I keep mentioning that we went up north. We haven't seen Steve's parents since Christmas. And so we decided to drive up north. His parents and his sister live like 3.5, 4 hours away in northern Minnesota. And we drove up there and we spent a couple nights visiting family. And while we were there, like I always bring my knitting. Steve, I let him go be cool uncle with his nephews and occasionally his niece when she is feeling up to being a part of that group. They're all really close in age. The oldest is 11, and then the twins were born like almost exactly a year later, so they're really close in age, and they're two of them are twins. They're fraternal, and so it's pretty busy at that house. They also have 3 dogs, and oh my gosh, it's just chaos sometimes. But I remember being a kid, and I remember like, I don't want to say jealousy, but like, where you want that time with your special family member, right? And so like their significant other kind of can detract from that, even if they're not being a part of it. And so I try really hard to be like, hey, no, you go play games with your nephews and I'll just hang out here. And I would say that I haven't really like bonded with the kids that much. Because they live up north and because they see the same people all the time every day, whenever they've seen us, we're weird and we live in the cities and like we have tattoos and I have colored hair and we're just like very different from adults that they know. And so when they were little, they would cry whenever they saw us, and then they got into a phase where they'd run away whenever they saw us, or they'd hide, like we were very weird for adults. And now they're in like 5th and 6th grade, and so they're starting to be more used to us and kind of less shy and whatever. And so I feel like this was the first time that anyone was really interested in talking to me. But I normally just sit, I'm so introverted, I just sit quietly in a corner and I knit and then people can talk to me if they want to. Like, I'm not trying to be like rude or distant, but like, I don't know, it's not, like, we're mostly here for Steve and I'm just hanging out, just doing my own thing and whatever, it's fine, it's good, it's fun. But Steve's sister said that her daughter was handed down a knitting machine, and I can't remember whose knitting machine it used to be, someone else in the family's, but it was like she was given the knitting machine and a bunch of old like yarn and notions from Steve's grandma, who died like a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that ago. Point is, she got a knitting machine, had some yarn, had some notions, and whatever, and they started talking about it, and I said, wow, that's so cool. Knitting machines like go for, at least a few $100s, and so I've never really used one. I have done like a few on some of the like really expensive, like really high-tech knitting machines at like Yarn Over at knitting events, but I've never like set one up. I've never used a circular knitting machine, but I would really like to, especially for charity knitting. And so they, were like, hey, Emma, come bring your knitting machine out here, you want to show it? And she was like kind of shy at first, but she was watching me knit on my socks, and she eventually was like, okay, yeah, let's try it. And Steve's sister was saying like that they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't they could get some knitting done, but then they didn't know what to do after that, and it wasn't really making anything. And so they showed me all of her project starts, and they were basically just like, strips of circular knitting. And, hey, they got that enough to work where like the stitches actually kind of stayed, but they didn't know how to finish, they didn't know what to do. And so we got it set up, and I was like, hey, this isn't really big enough. Like the circumference was slightly small, like it's not for an adult-sized hat. I'm honestly not sure what that knitting machine was purchased for, like initially by whoever owned it before them, but it could knit like a hat for a small head. Like the sample that she had done, I think, was a cotton yarn that they tried to make a hat out of, and like I could put it on my head, and I have a really small head for an adult, and it was pretty tight, but like you get the idea. And so instead what we did was she made little purses. So we were able to get it so she could knit a tube, and then the way that the instructions have you bind off is just sticking the yarn through each of the loops, and then when you're done you just pull it tight. And because she wanted a purse, we needed it to be flat. So what I did was, just to get her the practice, I had her take it off in the way that the instructions instruct, and then I just by myself undid all of that, made the stitches live, and bound off the edge. And then I showed her how to use whip stitch to, I think it's whip stitch, I kept calling it whip stitch, I hope it's whip stitch, but just where you're like going around and around, 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 right, to stitch up the bottom. Because I wanted to give her skills that she could immediately remember and use on her own. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, like it just has to be serviceable in a way that a kid would like. And so she got really excited, and then she was like, okay, but now how do I make it a purse? And I was like, hey, guess what? You can finger knit. And so I taught all the kids how to finger knit. And finger knitting was something that I did all the time as a child. I didn't like think of it as knitting in any way. It was just called finger knitting, but it was like a little fad that we had, I think, at school for like a brief period of time. And so I would finger knit these long chains, and I had a bed that had middle bars, and so I would like wrap it around the bars. And so I just have like strong memories of decorating my room with these strings of like finger knit yarns. And so I showed her how to make a strap with finger knitting, and I showed her how you sew it. You use a darning needle and you sew it on, and so she made 3 purses in the time that I was there. And then her older brother was like, hey, I want to make like a cowl, you know, I want to make something to keep my neck warm because I'm a school patrol this year. And so I showed him also how to use the knitting machine and how to knit it until it's the desired length, and then how to get it off. You have to know how to get it off. And then, yeah, he just put it on his head, or, you know, around his neck. And so that was really cool. And then this morning, he FaceTimed his grandma, Steve's mom, and showed her how he finger knit this huge length just to see how long he could make it before he got bored or decided he was going to do a different activity or what. So I did something. Woo. Yeah, it'd be really cool if you know, Steve's niece ever wanted to learn real knitting at some point, or someone, right? I learned knitting on my own. I don't have anyone in my family who knits. My grandma used to sew, but I don't think she really does anymore. She paints, and I have no painting skills. I would love to get into sewing, but that would take some time. But it would be nice to, like, I mean, I taught my old students how to knit, and both with loom and with needles. I really should have taught them finger knitting. I don't know why I didn't. I wish I did though now. Maybe it just didn't occur to me. But yeah, like it would just be cool to be able to teach other people how to knit and like sort of pass it on without having to have kids of my own, because having kids just to teach them knitting is really not probably a great reason to have children. Yeah, that's pretty much what we've been up to. We got home earlier today, and now Steve is recording a podcast, and yeah, and I'm doing my podcast, my video diary. This is way longer than I had intended, so I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much for coming back if you are a returning viewer, and wow, congratulations, thank you so much for staying also if you are a new viewer. I'm so happy to have you here. If you don't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. I do try to put out podcasts every couple of weeks, or every other week or so. As I said, it just was kind of busy and dealing with a bunch of stuff in the meantime. But I do plan on getting back into a regular schedule, so please make sure to stop on by, turn on those alerts for me, and feel free to leave a comment below. What are you working on? Like, what are your plans for the fall? Anything? Like, is anything changing for you this year that would be different from previous years? Let me know. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon, and have a wonderful start to your mid-September. Thank you. Bye.